When I was 19 years old, I got my first job as a river guide. Now, I was what you call a B-rate river guide, which is really just a fancy word for cook. And one afternoon, we were 4 hours downriver when Rookie here discovers that I've not only forgotten the frying pan back at base camp, but I've also left all of the plates. So the pressure was seriously on. We had 30 uptight guests, and one of them was a journalist who was reviewing the trip. Luckily for me, my team rallied around, and in the pressure of that moment, we figured out how to make a plan to cook a meal for 30 people using only a camping kettle, while we distracted them with a roll of tin foil and a make-your-own-plate competition. So it's safe to say I wasn't a river guide for very long. But my best memories of that job were often when disaster struck, and in the pressure of the moment, we had to make a plan. If I fast forward to 2018, the plan that thousands of us Cape Townians have been making has been around figuring out how to use water and save it very differently in the face of the drought that we've been living in. The concept of day zero for me is still incomprehensible. In fact, I was so traumatized by the thought of what it would actually mean if 4 million people became the first city in the world to have their taps switched off, that by January this year, we'd radically reduced our water use. We were down to 37 liters a day or less. We were only showering every second day. We still smelt okay. But it got so bad for me that if I was watching a TV show and someone left a tap running, I had to change channels. Did anyone else have that problem? So on the 9th of February, when we heard there was going to be rain, we canceled everything. We spent the afternoon redirecting our gutters so that we could put big black storage bins under them. 10 o'clock that night, sitting on the couch watching Netflix, and we heard that exquisite sound of rain. After 30 minutes, we went outside, and our bins were already overflowing. So what ensued was a 2-hour marathon of us frantically ferrying buckets of water from our gutters to our swimming pool because that was our only chance of surviving if the taps got switched off. It was about halfway through this, I was arm deep in water, and I looked up the alleyway of our house and I saw that our next door neighbor was doing exactly the same thing. Except he was wearing what I can best describe as a flesh-colored onesie. Which made me pause. Not so much the onesie, but more the fact that we weren't the only Cape Townians that had left the comfort of our homes. There were thousands of us who were braving the elements, making a plan to survive in the face of this disaster. And so when I woke up the next morning, this experience was really fresh in my mind, and it had brought with it a brutal awakening and awareness of the utter disconnect that I've been living my life in. For 42 years, I'd sat inside listening to rain and totally taken for granted that, water just comes out of tap and I don't have to have anything to do with saving it. And there was 2 things about this rain harvesting experience that stood out for me. The one was I couldn't remember the last time I'd actually felt so alive, so exhilarated, so in the moment. I'm familiar with this concept that necessity is the mother of invention. But that evening, I learned that it is also the mother of being in the moment. The second thing that stood out is all the invention that this drought seems to have given birth to, all this incredible creativity. And you're looking at water from air machines. People have been uploading hysterical video clips on YouTube on how you could save water. And you were getting gutter socks that channel water from your gutter to your swimming pool, which ironically, if we'd had one of those, I wouldn't be giving this talk today. So, looking at all of this, a big question came to my mind, and that was, does convenience kill creativity? Does the ease of my life disconnect me from being in the moment and from accessing my own creative potential? And by creativity, I'm not talking artistic creativity. I'm talking that incredible ability that we as human beings have to get creative, to connect the dots, to find solutions and make a plan in the moment. So it was a big question. And I did with it what I think any normal person would do at a time like that. I sat down and I banged off a 1,000-word Facebook post, as one does. And what I couldn't have anticipated was the response that it got. Within a few days, I'd had over 80,000 views. There'd been more than 3,500 shares. And I was receiving emails from people all around the world. It wasn't only Cape Townians that were resonating. 9 months later, I find myself still resonating with this question because it's made me look at my life in a whole new light. I've suddenly been reflecting, and what I can see is that my life has not been defined by the times things went according to plan. It's generally come from when things weren't going well, and in the pressure of that moment, I was forced to step out of my comfort zone and find a way forward. And the irony for me is that I spend my whole life avoiding inconvenience. In fact, if I had to be honest, I'm a convenience junkie. If it's easy, I'm in. So I spend my life looking for the comfortable way forward. But the last 9 months in this crisis has made me ask the question, why do I wait for life to force inconvenience on me with a crisis, to get that exhilaration of being in the moment and accessing my creative potential? What would happen if instead of waiting, I actually started actively inviting in inconvenience and created pockets of it in my daily life so that I can have more of these exhilarating experiences? And I've been having fun with it. I've been playing with it and trying to see what this would look like. And what I'm discovering is that it doesn't have to be very complicated. It can be simple moments of inconvenience, and they can be fun, but they can also be important. And as I've been playing with it, I've been really seeing where it takes me. And for example, some fun examples are this morning when I was getting ready for you today. I thought, you know what, I'm going to give myself the inconvenience of not being able to choose anything from my wardrobe that I've bought from a normal shop. It has to be secondhand. I think I did okay. Just putting it out there, the underwear, that's where I drew the line at underwear. But it was a fun little moment of inconvenience. Another one that's great for saving money is the next time you have to get a gift for someone, instead of going out and buying something, give yourself the inconvenience of not spending money. In that pressure of that moment, you'd be amazed. Your mind will start connecting the dots. You might see something you could repurpose, or you could make, or you could even gift someone of your time. Another one that's great for stopping on the waste of food, which we do a lot of, whether we like it or not, 10 million tons of edible food a year in South Africa, is try this. Don't buy groceries for a day or two. See how many meals you can make from the bottom of your pantry and the back of your fridge. Now, my husband has asked that I slow down on this one. Apparently, my cooking hasn't improved since I was a river guide. But these are just fun little ways that you can start becoming friends with inconvenience and allowing it to connect you into the moment and into your creative spark. But there's also important inconveniences that I think we need to become friends with, because this drought has really shown me that. And I think going forward for the rest of my life, I will always flush a toilet with gray water. But there's other areas of our lives where this concept of day zero is probably going to be a reality for many of us. Because if you think about it, there might be a personal day zero for your finances or your health, or professional day zeros for your organization or your industry, or most importantly for me, is environmental day zeros. And one of the big ones we're looking down the eye of is the single-use plastic crisis. And it's been beautiful today to see already all the awareness in this event around, don't go get another bottle, keep reusing it. Because I learned a terrifying statistic recently, which is when it comes to single-use plastic, it's in your possession for an average of 12 minutes. 12 minutes is the length of many of the speeches you've seen here today. You will have a plastic straw, the top of a coffee cup, or a plastic shopping bag before it becomes a 500-year inconvenience to the planet. And so like our water crisis here, the single-use plastic crisis is also giving birth to amazing creativity and innovation already. We're seeing packaging-free supermarkets opening. People are arriving at their local barista with their own coffee cup. And my favorite is that somebody figured out that you could fill a 2-liter Coke bottle with single-use plastic. You could turn it into an eco-brick, and you could use that to build a school. Isn't that amazing? So I've been playing with these. We started doing these at home, but my big one is around plastic shopping bags, because I've known for years that I shouldn't use them, and I always had really good intentions, and I'd arrive at the shopping market and realize, oh, I've left my bag at home, I'll just buy 3 more. And so a while back, I made that a non-negotiable. It's my biggest inconvenience. I can only shop with sustainable, reusable bags. It took a while, but I finally got into the habit, and it's been going really, really well. Except 2 months ago, I arrived in Johannesburg and got to the counter, put all my groceries down, and realized that I had a new handbag. So the lady says, very politely, would you like a plastic packet? In my best Cape Townian pious voice, I was like, oh no, sorry, I don't use plastic bags. Which led to a slightly awkward moment, because she was like, and your point is? People in the queue are starting to get a bit agitated, and so now I was under serious pressure, and all I could think to do in that moment was kind of look at what I was wearing, whip off my scarf, put it down on the counter, look her in the eye and say, should we do this? Huge smile spread across her face. And she was in. And the two of us started loading our groceries into the middle of that scarf. We then figured out how to tie it into what I can only describe as a Huckleberry Finn style contraption. There was a chap in the queue who was starting to give us advice. He was managing the process. And I left that interaction feeling alive. I felt exhilarated. I felt so grateful for this incredible moment of connection that she and I had shared. That, if I'd had the convenience of saying, yes, I'll buy a plastic shopping bag, wouldn't have happened. And so you might be seeing that I'm not talking radical innovation that little pockets of inconvenience bring into your life. I'm talking small moments where you get to be present to another person, to an experience, and you create the opportunity for either individual or collaborative creativity as you solve that problem. And Stephen Johnson said it best in his book, Where Good Ideas Come From. He said, chance favors the connected mind. And what I've learned in the last 9 months is that as I've started inviting in those little bits of inconvenience, as I've made friends with inconvenience, it's started connecting my mind to the moment and to my creative potential. And so I want to invite you to do what you could maybe think of as a convenience audit. Look at your life, celebrate the conveniences you have, but see where maybe it's disconnecting you, where potentially it's putting you on autopilot. Because I have many of those moments. Shopping is one of them. It's a disconnected autopilot moment. But the minute I introduced inconvenience into that, it disrupted my disconnection. It got me back in the moment and back into my creative flow. And so if you ever happen to find yourself up a river without a frying pan, I hope that if you've made friends with inconvenience, if you've started allowing it to give you the gifts that it brings, your mind in that moment will be able to connect the dots, to find amazing solutions and make a plan when it really, really matters. Because even though this drought is far from over and we've still got some lessons ahead of us, I think, what I have realized is the gift that inconvenience brings. And my biggest realization has been that creativity, like water, doesn't only come from a tap. Thank you.